live my life a quarter mile at a time.
The Fate of the Furious is directed by F. Gary Gray and is the 8th installment in the Fast and Furious franchise, which is crazy to think that Fast and Furious started when I was just 10 years old. The first time I had seen it was from my dad, who was an auto shop teacher in our small town. I hadn't seen Point Break yet, which I later discovered was the inspiration for the Fast and Furious movie. As well, I probably shouldn't add this, but I'm just going to anyway. Fast and Furious, as well as Natalie Portman in the prequels, I'm looking at you, Attack of the Clones, was part of my sexual awakening as a kid. Both of the first two movies were actually a pretty important part in my life, and I enjoyed them for the most part. It wasn't until Tokyo Drift came along where I started to waver in wanting to see any more Fast and Furious movies. 5 is what really put me back on track with seeing what I loved about the Fast and Furious franchise, how diverse their cast is, how diverse it is behind the camera, and what they were able to do with stretching out this franchise, and really it stretching out a franchise all the way up until Furious 7, where the late Paul Walker did pass away. But they decided to continue on with the Fate of the Furious. The story centers around Vin Diesel's character, Dominic Toretto, being blackmailed into working for the new main villain of the film, Cypher, a cyber terrorist played by the stunning, yet a little too dreadlocky Charlize Theron. Having to go up against his own family, Toretto is now faced with the possibility of either destroying them or destroying himself in the process. What the film lacks with the loss of the late Paul Walker, it does attempt to make up for with a more serious story, while throwing in lots of humor sprinkled in with action to keep you engaged. This movie is actually really funny, a lot more funny than you would expect, particularly between Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham's characters. Those scenes proved to end up being some of the best parts of the movie. The action, while not as jaw-dropping as the other films before it, will still give you your money's worth with the badass stunts, with Tyrese Gibson asking if everyone believes what he's seeing, with the cheesiest dialogue given by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson that ends up just being amazing somehow. This isn't a movie that you can look too closely and critique, because it's meant to be cheesy, and it's meant to be a big action bonanza. Yeah, I said bonanza. It's when the film forgets to be a Fast and Furious movie where it really starts to fail for me. The story relies really heavily on knowing the Fast and Furious lore to really know what's going on. There are characters reintroduced in the movie that would cause a person who's never really seen a Fast and Furious movie to kind of go lost. It even took a minute for someone like me who has seen all of the films to figure out who each person was and which film they had been in. All the performances worked, even Kurt Russell, who reprises his role as Mr. Nobody, and really was only in it to get a paycheck, popping in for just a couple minutes and having little to no significance to the story. As the story tries to bring in more complex ideas to the characters, it never really delves in and explores them, making it pretty basic when it comes down to it, and you're wanting to get a little bit more explanation as to some of the characters' motivations, but they just don't really have that in the movie. But again, this is a Fast and Furious movie. What it's supposed to do is be entertaining, give you a ton of great action sequences, and be cheesy as hell, and I would say that this movie delivered. Whether the movie's gonna end up being in the top 3 best Fast and Furious films, I don't really think so. I'm gonna give The Fate of the Furious a 7 out of 10. So guys, tell me what you thought about The Fate of the Furious. Whatever you thought, leave a comment down below. Thank you again as always for watching, and I will see you at the next review.